Okay, so there's this really weird thing happening in the workplace right now. Companies are pouring millions and millions of dollars into employee well-being programs, but somehow burnout is worse than ever? So what gives? What's really going on here?
And this is a huge question because the numbers, well, they're pretty shocking. A recent Gallup report found that a staggering 3 out of 4 of us feel burned out on the job at least sometimes. All those wellness apps, the yoga sessions, the resilience workshops, they're just not moving the needle. So, what are we all missing?
All right, to really get to the bottom of this, we're going to tackle it from a few different angles. First, we'll look at the paradox itself. Then, we'll see how the responsibility for burnout has been quietly shifted onto the wrong shoulders. We'll dig into the real cause of the problem, and then uncover a really surprising side effect of all these wellness programs. And finally, we'll ask a pretty big question. What if we've been thinking about resilience all wrong? Okay, first up, the resilience paradox. This is all about the massive, growing gap between what these programs promise and the exhausting reality that so many people are living every single day at work. And you can really see this gap when you put the promises side by side with reality. On one hand, you've got the marketing pitch, stronger employees, a culture of care, right? But then you have the hard data. A Deloitte study found that over half of us, 55%, are reporting burnout symptoms. The promises support, but the reality is that being totally overloaded is just, well, it's just normal now.
So, how do we explain this disconnect? Well, a huge part of it comes down to this subtle but really powerful shift in who's responsible, a shift away from the organization and directly onto you, the employee.
I found this incredible term for it from researchers Eva Eloz and Edgar Cabanas. They call it a therapeutic regime. Here's what that means. It's when these big, systemic problems, like impossible deadlines or a toxic manager, get completely reframed. Suddenly, it's not a problem with the system anymore. No, it becomes your problem, a personal psychological challenge that you need to fix about yourself. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures this narrative shift. The question stops being, hey, are these working conditions fair? And instead, it becomes, are you resilient enough to handle it? You see what happened there? That simple little change puts the entire burden on the individual and lets the organization completely off the hook. So if the problem isn't our lack of resilience, then what is the real driver of burnout? Well, let's look at what the data actually says. Now, this is a massive insight from the McKinsey Health Institute. A whopping 60% of what predicts burnout isn't workload or pay. It's toxic workplace behavior. We're talking about unfair treatment, a cutthroat culture, a total lack of psychological safety. Things that no amount of personal resilience can ever fix. And this leads to something that researchers are now calling well-being washing. You've probably heard of greenwashing, right? It's the exact same idea, but for mental health. It's when a company offers a mindfulness app or a yoga class, these nice symbolic gestures, while doing absolutely nothing to fix the toxic culture that's causing the problem in the first place. And here is where things get really, really interesting and kind of backward. What if these resilience programs, when you drop them into a toxic environment, actually make your best people more likely to leave? Let's walk through how that works. Just think about it for a second. You go to a resilience workshop, and it teaches you to recognize your own stress signals and your personal boundaries. Great. Then you go back to your desk, and with this new self-awareness, you see with total clarity just how often those boundaries are being ignored and crossed by the system. And that's when the light bulb goes off. The problem isn't me, it's this place. And so you make the completely logical, empowered decision to leave. And the data fully backs us up. That same McKinsey study found that the most emotionally adaptable employees, the very people you would call resilient, show a 60% higher desire to quit when they're stuck in a toxic workplace. So instead of helping keep their best people, these resilience programs can actually give them the clarity and the courage they need to walk away. So all of this forces us to take a step back and fundamentally rethink what we even mean by resilience. It seems we've been mixing up a problem of the individual psyche with the problem of the entire system. You can think of it like this. It's about two totally different worlds. Resilience training is a psychological tool for our inner world. It helps us manage our thoughts and stress. But burnout, that's a problem in the outer world. It's rooted in the company's culture, its structure, its demands. We're essentially trying to use a screwdriver to hammer in a nail. It's just the wrong tool for the job. I absolutely love this analogy because it makes the whole situation crystal clear.
Offering resilience training to an employee in a toxic company is like teaching a swimmer to hold their breath for just a few more seconds instead of doing the obvious, sane thing and pulling them out of the whirlpool that's dragging them under.
So, let's boil all of this down to three really important takeaways. Number one, burnout is a symptom of an unhealthy system, not a personal weakness. Number two, real, genuine care means changing the toxic structures, not just handing out coping tools to help people survive them. And number three, maybe true resilience isn't about how much you can endure. Maybe it's about having the strength to change or to leave unhealthy conditions.
And that really brings us to a final, powerful idea. Perhaps we've been framing this whole conversation the wrong way. The goal shouldn't be about making employees tougher and more resilient. The goal should be about building organizations where they don't have to be. Now, this is obviously a really complex issue, and it all starts with changing the conversation. So I'm curious, what do you think? What's one thing your organization could do to become a genuinely healthier place to work? Let us know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your ideas.